जोरदार तालियां देवी और सज्जनों। मैं आप सभी से रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहूंगी, प्लीज अपना स्थान ग्रहण करें। आप सभी से आग्रह, प्लीज अपना फेस मास्क पहन लें और सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग का पालन करें। आप सभी से मैं आग्रह करना चाहूंगी, प्लीज अपना स्थान ग्रहण कर लें। इस ऑडिटोरियम में पीछे की ओर काफी सीट्स खाली हैं। आप सभी से रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहूंगी, सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग का पालन करें, व अपना स्थान ग्रहण करें और फेस मास्क अवश्य लगाएं। ऑडिटोरियम में जितने भी लोग आगे की ओर हैं, मैं आप सभी से रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहूंगी, प्लीज पीछे की ओर खाली सीट्स पर अपना स्थान ग्रहण करें। A very hearty good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Manav Rachna, I, Diksha, would like to welcome you all to the Education Leaders Summit Chapter 2 on the theme Transformative Strength of Education for the World Beyond COVID-19, Build Back Better. As Manav Rachna has entered into its Silver Jubilee year, a series of mind-stimulating and knowledge dissemination activities have been planned for this special year. To commemorate this special occasion, Manav Rachna is honored to organize a two-day Education Leader Summit on 13th and 14th August 2021. The event on 13th August, that is today, is being organized in the physical mode, and it would continue on day 2, that is tomorrow on 14th of August, in a virtual mode where renowned experts from education sector will join as a speaker. Vice President College Board, VC Marwari University, VC Shulini University, Director Center for Incubation Innovation MDU, Advisor University of Queensland, Australia, President Sri Sri University, CEO IRM Regional Group will be our eminent speaker tomorrow. We are delighted and honored to have a very eminent panel to share their views and opinions on transformative strength of education for the world beyond COVID-19, Build Back Better. और आज के इस कार्यक्रम में हमारे साथ माननीय मंत्री महोदया जुड़ी हैं। इनके लिए जोरदार तालियां अपना बहुमूल्य समय निकालकर हम सभी के बीच आई हैं। To begin with our today's event, I would like to request our dignitaries present on the dais to proceed for an auspicious lamp lighting ceremony and request the students of Manav Rachna to present Saraswati Vandana.
शुभ्र कलुष भेद तम हर प्रकाश भय कलुष भेद तम हर प्रकाश भय जगमग जग कर दे वीणा वादिनी वर दे वीणा वादिनी वर दे सरे ग ग रे ग म ग म प प म प द द प द नि नि ध नि सा ध नि सा वीणा वादिनी वर दे।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद और इस कार्यक्रम की पावन शुरुआत. Now it's time to welcome our dignitaries, and to do the honors, I would like to request Honorable Chief Patron Madam Satya Bhalla, Honorable Chancellor Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies Dr. Prashant Bhalla, and Dr. Amit Bhalla, Vice President Manav Rachna Educational Institutions, to present a shawl and a sapling as a token of gratitude to our honorable guest, Srimati Smriti Zubin Irani ji, Honorable Union Minister, Ministry of Women and Child Development, Government of India. इस पल के लिए एक बार जोरदार तालियां देवियों और सज्जनों. हमारे बीच आज के एक और खास मेहमान हैं डॉक्टर मनीष कुमार जी, एक्स मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर एंड सीईओ एनएसडीसी, और मैं रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहूंगी वाइस चांसलर मानव रचना यूनिवर्सिटी, डॉक्टर आई के भट्ट जी, व वाइस चांसलर मानव रचना इंटरनेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ रिसर्च एंड स्टडीज डॉक्टर संजय श्रीवास्तव जी से कि वो मनीष कुमार जी का स्वागत करें. एक बार जोरदार तालियां देवियों और सज्जनों. Thank you so much, sir. Manav Rachna Educational Institutions, founded by a visionary Dr. O.P. Bhalla ji and nurtured by our respected Chief Patron, Mrs. Satya Bhalla ji. और अब मैं रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहूंगी श्रीमती सत्या भल्ला जी से कि वो मंच पर आएं और हम सभी को अपना आशीर्वाद दें.
नमस्कार. आदरणीय स्मृति ईरानी जी, यूनियन मिनिस्टर, मंच पर विराजमान सभी गणमान्य व्यक्ति तथा सभा में उपस्थित सभी सदस्यों का मैं हार्दिक अभिनंदन करती हूँ. मैं अपनी तरफ से तथा संपूर्ण मानव रचना परिवार की तरफ से श्रीमती स्मृति ईरानी जी का तहे दिल से शुक्रिया अदा करती हूँ कि जिन्होंने इतना व्यस्त कार्यक्रम होते हुए भी यहाँ पर पधारने की कृपा की. मैं शब्दों में वर्णन नहीं कर सकती कि श्रीमती स्मृति ईरानी जी के आने पर हमें कितना हर्ष होता है और हमें कितना प्रोत्साहन मिलता है. ये हमारे लिए एक प्रेरणा का स्रोत है. आज जबकि मानव रचना शिक्षण संस्थान अपना रजत जयंती वर्ष के 2 कार्यक्रम कर रही है, उस कार्यक्रम में इतने व्यस्त होते हुए भी ये यहाँ पधारी, उसके लिए मैं इनका धन्यवाद करती हूँ. जैसा कि आप जानते हो कि ये वर्ष मानव रचना के लिए एक मील का पत्थर साबित होगा. मानव रचना शिक्षण संस्थान की नींव हमारे फाउंडर विजनरी डॉक्टर ओपी भल्ला ने 1997 में रखी थी. वो मानव रचना जो एक छोटे से पौधे के रूप में लगाया गया था, आज वही पौधा डॉक्टर ओपी भल्ला के प्रयासों से एक विशालकाय पेड़ के रूप में परिवर्तित हो चुका है और जिसकी शाखाएं दूर दूर तक फैल चुकी हैं और जड़ें इतनी मजबूत हो गई हैं कि अगर कोई शत्रु इसको हिला ना सकेगा तो हिला भी नहीं सकेगा. ये हमारा दृढ़ विश्वास है. आज मानव रचना अगर इतनी उन्नति की चरम शिखा पर पहुंचा है तो उसका श्रेय सर्वप्रथम डॉक्टर ओपी भल्ला को जाता है, जिन्होंने बाल्यकाल, युवावस्था दोनों में, और उसके बाद मानव रचना को गृहस्थ आश्रम में प्रवेश करवाकर ही दम लिया। उनका ये लक्ष्य था कि मानव रचना संस्थान की नींव रख के मैं परिपूर्ण मानव की रचना करूंगा और वो समाज उसका संपूर्ण विकास करूंगा। उनका उद्देश्य बहुत अच्छा था, वो अपने उद्देश्य में पूर्णतः सफल हुए, परंतु मुझे खेद है कि वो कार्य को बीच में छोड़कर चले गए। परंतु उसके साथ ही साथ मुझे बहुत प्रसन्नता होती है कि उनके अधूरे कार्य को उनकी संतानों डॉक्टर प्रशांत भल्ला, डॉक्टर अमित भल्ला तथा संपूर्ण मानव रचना के परिवार ने आगे बढ़ाने में कोई कसर नहीं छोड़ी। और मैं ये पूर्ण दावे के साथ कहती हूँ कि अगर दृढ़ विश्वास और दृढ़ संकल्प हो तो जहाँ निश्चय हो तो कोई भी कार्य अधूरा नहीं रहता। मुझे ये पूर्ण विश्वास है कि मेरे मानव रचना परिवार के सदस्यों के सहयोग से ये कार्य जल्दी से जल्दी संभव होगा और वो दिन दूर नहीं जब मानव रचना ऊंचाई की बुलंदियों को छू लेगा, और यही हमारा स्वप्न है। आज वो पेड़ जिसको एक छोटे से पौधे के रूप में हमारे फाउंडर विजनरी डॉक्टर ओपी भल्ला ने लगाया था, वो विशालकाय पेड़ के रूप में परिवर्तित हो गया है और उसकी शाखाएं दूर दूर तक फैल गई हैं। और अभी ये शाखाएं क्या हैं? ये वो निकाय हैं जो मानव रचना शिक्षण संस्थान ने आरंभ किए थे, और अभी तो मुझे पूर्ण विश्वास है कि इसकी शाखाएं इतनी ज्यादा बढ़ेंगी कि हमारे लिए गणना करना भी असंभव होगा। मैं उस दिन का स्वप्न देख रही हूँ कि जब मेरी संतानें और मेरा मानव रचना परिवार इस मानव रचना शिक्षण संस्थान को ऊंचाई की बुलंदियों पर ले जाएगा। और मुझे पूर्ण विश्वास है कि माँ का आशीर्वाद कभी खाली नहीं जाता मेरे संतान पर, और मेरे मानव रचना परिवार के सदस्यों को मेरा आशीर्वाद हर समय साथ है। और मैं ये दृढ़ निश्चय से कहती हूँ कि मानव रचना का नाम विश्व की अग्रगण्य यूनिवर्सिटियों में शीघ्र ही गिना जाएगा। मैं श्रीमती समृद्धि ईरानी जी का बहुत धन्यवाद करती हूँ, और मैं इनसे ये प्रार्थना करती हूँ कि जब भी कभी हमें इनकी आवश्यकता हो, इनके दृढ़ संकल्प से हम बहुत प्रेरित होते हैं, और ये हमें इतना प्रोत्साहित करती हैं कि शब्दों में वर्णन करना मुश्किल है। ये हम इनके बहुत आभारी हैं कि जब भी हम इन्हें बुलाते हैं ये हमेशा हमारी प्रार्थना स्वीकार कर लेती हैं। इससे ऊपर और क्या चाहिए? और मैं आगे भी इनसे निवेदन करती हूँ कि समय समय पर हमारे सदस्यों का, हमारे संतानों का पथ प्रदर्शन करती रहेंगी, और इनके मार्गदर्शन में मानव रचना शिक्षण संस्थान और दिन दुगनी रात चौगनी उन्नति करेगा। अंत में मैं अधिक समय ना लेते हुए सभी आए हुए सदस्यों का, मंच पर विराजमान गणमान्य अतिथियों का तथा श्रीमती समृद्धि ईरानी का हार्दिक धन्यवाद करती हूँ। जय हिंद।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। और कार्यक्रम का आरंभ बड़ों के आशीर्वाद के साथ। एक बार जोरदार तालियां श्रीमती सत्या भल्ला जी के लिए। I now would like to invite the young and dynamic leader who has been able to understand the aspirations of the youth of this country and has created a platform for them from where they can attain their dreams. Honorable Chancellor Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies, Dr. Prashant Bhalla ji. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
A hearty evening to everyone present here. First of all, my thanks to each one of you who are here today with us on this Education Leaders Summit 2021 Chapter 2 on transformative strength of education for the world beyond COVID-19, how we can plan to build it better. I really feel honored and humbled to have Honorable Srimati Smriti Irani ji, Honorable Minister for Women and Child Development, Government of India. Hi, heartiest greetings to the keynote speakers of the summit, Dr. Manish Kumar ji, who's an ex-MD and CEO of NSDC. We are missing the presence of Dr. DP Singh ji, the UGC chairman, who was supposed to be there, but he got caught in some assignment with the current HRD minister. A very warm welcome to all the eminent personalities representing the government, academia, media, industry, and authorities of some of the prestigious organizations of the country. I take this opportunity to thank everyone here who was here and extend my compliments to the panelists who shall be joining us on the day 2 in the virtual mode tomorrow. When we talk about this whole aspect on global education and the first chapter which we started, the purpose was defined around the new education policy which got launched a year back, and there has been lots of discussions around implementation and the challenges and how we can implement it in a way that what we intend from India as a country, as an education leader, we should be able to achieve that. With that thought, the first chapter 1 happened, and in that we were fortunate enough to have Shri Anugrag Tripathi ji, who was the Secretary CBSE, Padam Shri V.S. Chauhan ji, the Executive Chairman of NAC, Dr. Ashwin Fernandez, the Regional Director of QS, Mr. Narayan Ramaswamy, the Partner and Head of Education and Skill Development from KPMG, and Mr. Venkatesh Sarvasiddhi, the Senior Head of Innovations and Partnership and CSR from NSDC, and Mr. Amarinder Pani, the Joint Director from AIU. So they all graced the occasion, and there were discussions around the rapidly changing scenario in the education sector and how we can purposefully use it to meaningfully ensure that the Indian education system get its due place in the international sphere of things that it really deserves. Now, coming to this chapter 2, we have seen this new education policy which aims at transforming education, and the approach is learning-centric. We are looking at keeping learner at the center. The NEP is a huge stride in the right direction. And if I remember, the whole initiative came in at the time when Honorable Srimati Irani ji was there as Union Minister for HRD, and this whole process got initiated. And the way this whole exercise was carried out, whether it was going down to the last mile, having huge deliberations, and then eventually coming up with those desired outcomes, again, those discussions kept on happening, and finally we have a very good strategic document which gives us a direction and a vision that could be the right driver for the change in education that we really want to happen. So this chapter is about the transformation of this education system with this current pandemic situation that we all have experienced in the last 1.5 years. And this time has been a great learning for us. It was a huge challenge, but I think it's just because of the resilience that we all have shown, and maybe as Manav Rachna family also, how everybody came together and rose up to the challenge, where we genuinely see that we are able to today boast of the new learnings and the implementation that we have made it happen so seamlessly, whether it was transforming to a new way of delivery or the IT making a major role in terms of coming on the driving seat and really enabling the whole education to really flow. So this whole transformation in a new digital age where we are entering into the aspect of education policy where we are talking about integration of skilling with the education, and the vocational education is one big area that we are discussing, and the internationalization aspect linked with ensuring that we stay true to our roots and we stay true to our ethos, and then we are able to really ensure that as the education people in the system, we are able to really deliver that meaningful education which is world standard, and we can create eventually that kind of benchmark for us that the Indian education system should be so well regarded that everyone can say that as educational institutions, whether it is in the higher education space or K-12, what Indian education system is giving is the world's best, and it includes the best practices that are already prevalent in the world, and there are some examples that definitely are helpful when we implement those things in the right context. When you talk about the Manav Rachna education system, it was driven by the vision of our honorable late founder, Dr. O.P. Bhalla ji, and he really believed in the whole thought of looking at building a wholesome personality. The thought behind Manav Rachna was about creating better human beings. And if you really look at the new education policy also, it talks about that kind of holistic development. It talks about integration of the sustainability aspects, the integration of UN sustainable goals. It talks about the whole purpose of education in a different way, rather than it being knowledge-centric to being more experiential learning oriented and project-based learning that we should be focused on. And those kind of outcomes we have already been following over the last 25 years of what Manav Rachna has been about and how we have been really moving in that direction. The focus has always been on the individual and parallelly with that, I think the way the whole ecosystem has developed, teachers and teacher training is again something that has been the core and the center of all our delivery. So the HR resource and the prime input that comes in terms of students, I think that's where the focus has always been when we talk about the Manav Rachna, how we have been growing ourselves and how we have been moving. So finally, to come to my concluding thoughts, I personally feel that these kind of symposiums are really helpful to have those kind of best practices sharing. And you heard about some of the speakers. So under SOCHAM, we have been able to create some regional structures, and universities all across the country are really collaborating, and they're sharing their best practices. And that's what I think the intent is, that even if it comes to new education policy implementation or anything, the prime responsibility comes to the edupreneurs or the educationists who have to really ensure the implementation. The government has given us a way forward, a good strategic document, but eventually the whole outcome will depend on how it gets implemented by the right people who are the decision makers or who are the drivers. So once again, I would like to thank Srimati Smriti Irani ji, Honorable Union Minister, for taking out her valuable time from a busy schedule and being part of the event. I sincerely thank you, ma'am, that as Satya Bhallaji also mentioned, that you are there with us whenever we want you to be part of any of our such occasions. I'm really thankful for your presence, and again, thanks to everyone who's part of the summit and who's made it here today. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing this valuable information. A nation cannot progress without skilled population. A diamond and a person attains its value only when it is polished. We are privileged to have the torch bearer of skill development, ex-MD and CEO NSDC, Dr. Manish Kumar. Request you, sir, to please share your valuable views. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Dr. Manish Kumar.
Honorable Union Minister, Mrs. Smriti Irani ji, respected Mrs. Satya Bhallaji, Mr. Prasanth Bhallaji, distinguished members on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, it's a great pleasure to be part of this conversation. Speaking about skills on which my passion lies and my interest lies, I think I would begin by first highlighting how transformative has the impact of government's effort been on the lives of youths that skill has been able to reach. Firstly, if you look at the capability that has been created in the country, if you look at the total number of people who are skilled, covering all the 37 sectors of the economy, and work done by all the ministries of the union government, and you add the state governments, it's more than a crore. It's almost like 1.25 crore annually. That's the capacity which has been created by everybody working together in all the sectors of the country. And that means essentially twice the population of Singapore just in 1 year's time. That's the level to which we are able to reach. This impact, if you see the change, is something which has begun to come from 2015 when the ministry had been established and every state government began to take interest in skills in a very big way. Now, one question would be that, well, we did create the capacity. What impact is it really making? There are some very interesting studies that has been taken up, and the insights are very useful for you to know. For every rupee that government actually spends on skilling, the return to society is 4. That's the interesting part of it. So there is a 4-time return to any investment which government is actually making on skilling, which is a huge amount. And it is not really well known to many people that that's the level of impact. That's at societal level. But at the individual level, for every person that is being skilled in average, what is the return that the person gets? And when we look at this number, it's a very interesting finding that we get. A person who gets skilled through government programs and gets job compared to a person of the same cohort who did not get skilled but still got a job. The person who got skilled gets 15% more. There is a 15% wage differential, which means that the industry is recognizing the special value that skilling brings. That's hugely transformational. You will still find that youths are not really fully satisfied, and it's important to know why. Youths are not fully satisfied because when we look at their expectation from life, When we usually ask young people who are joining the workforce for the first time that, are you happy with your wages? And they will say, no, we are not happy with the wages. They get about 9,000 rupee per month in average. I'm talking of average. Their expectation from life is 18,000 rupee. So it's a very important thing to know, because you must know the aspiration before we solve it. The aspiration of a youth is 18,000 rupee per month in average when they join a job. What they get is 9,000. I think this is a problem of economics, because essentially it's a demand and supply in the industry. When we talk to industry and tell them, why don't you increase the wages to 18,000? Because they are going to stick to you. Otherwise, they'll keep on changing the job until they get 18,000. So the industry says, we will be willing to give 18,000 if they stick for a year, or if they stick for at least 1.5 years, they show performance. So you'll notice lately that the government has actually responded to this also. And you'll notice that a lot of work is being done in apprenticeship. And there is an effort actually through apprenticeship connected to skills. So after skills, you get into apprenticeship, and then you show to the employer that I'm worth 18,000. So there is a kind of combination which is going on. And I know there is always an impatience among people that why doesn't things happen faster? You know, everybody wants things fast and fast. But building a nation is not an easy job. And our country, 1.3 billion population, 1.3 billion is the population of the entire African continent. There are 40 countries in that continent. So in a way, it's one of the most complex country and still doing well. So we should be very, very proud of that changes which is coming, and so many positive changes that we see. Since we have Honorable Union Minister for Women Development, Women and Child Development, I would actually like to highlight one aspect where I think Manav Rachna has been doing a lot of work, and I think support from the ministry could really take us forward. On the skilling front, we find that one of the challenges with India has been the low female labor force participation. You would have heard of this quite frequently, that labor force participation of women in India is about 23%. This is very normal in any developing economy. You'll be surprised that every developing economy finds that women labor force participation actually drops. It does not increase. But there is a time when it begins to reverse. There is like a U-shaped curve. And we have reached that point when the U-shaped curve will move upwards. But I think there are a few things which are necessary. Within India, we find a lot of variation. You'll find, firstly, that there are states which do exceedingly well in terms of female labor force participation. For example, Himachal Pradesh is actually very high on female labor force participation. Meghalaya is very, very high. So is Andhra Pradesh. But there are parts of India which is really poor, like Bihar is 4%. The lowest in the world is actually 5% in Yemen. And therefore, there are parts of India which requires deep attention. Now, what can one do, and why should one do anything about it? Firstly, there are research which shows that if you can increase women labor force participation by 20 percentage point, it will add to $1 trillion to the economy of India. So if you make it from 23 to 43 percentage point, basically adding 20 percentage point, which means 23 becomes 43, you would have added simply by this change $1 trillion to India's economy. So that's a huge amount of money which comes to us. And I think the second factor is the overall growth impact this particular approach will have in our country. So I think it's an important issue to focus on. The issues on which I think we need to work for this purpose is creating platforms like in some other countries. South Korea is an example which I would like to give, where they have platforms that enable women who have gone out of workforce to come back to workforce. Usually you'll find that women might be very educated, they leave the workforce for family reason, but when they want to return, there's a lack of confidence, they have lost their network, and sometimes because the world is changing so fast, there's a kind of disconnect with the skills that are necessary for re-entering the workforce. The platform in countries like South Korea actually provides all the three. It's like a safe landing spot for 3 to 6 months where they begin to interact, where they begin to learn, where they begin to build networks, and then finally they land into jobs. So I think there is a need for creating such kind of platforms, institutions in the context of India. I think in every city within the country, and then encouraging women very deliberately that you should return to workforce. Secondly, there is huge potential that online education. I know that Manav Rachna through KEDMEN is actually doing fantastic work. there is a huge opportunity through Kedman and such institutions, both to take knowledge out to people who are in households and women who are in households. They want to learn. So you can actually provide online platforms to learn. Secondly, it's possible in today's world, in the gig economy that we have, that women could actually work from home and still earn money. So you become economically empowered, even though you might not be stepping out because you have some social reasons for not doing so. So I think we need to leverage on this capability that India has, and there is huge potential for taking this forward. So I do look forward to working together with Manav Rachna on this very important agenda. And I thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your words of wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, a student mind is always full of questions. And what better opportunity they can have than today to clear their mind, as we have one of the brightest minds of our country, Mrs. Smriti Zubin Irani, as our eminent speaker, जिनके लिए मैं सिर्फ यही कहना चाहूँगी, सफलता की सबसे खास बात है कि वो मेहनत करने वालों पर फिदा हो जाती है. Today, it's an honor to have with us a great example of hard work, passion, and success. Honorable Union Minister, Ministry of Women and Child Development, Srimati Smriti Zubin Irani ji. Students from Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies and Manav Rachna International Schools are ready with their questions. And to moderate this session, I would like to hand over the mic to Ms. Ritika Singh.
Thank you, Diksha. Good afternoon to our special guests, Madam Smriti Zubin Irani ji, Dr. Manish Kumar, Satya Bhala ma'am, all my seniors who are on stage, my team members and students. Ma'am, today it is indeed a very special day because you are personally my role model also, and along with me, a role model for so many young people who are going to be listening to you today. And so much so, just to share a personal thing, I mean, my love and admiration for you is not just limited to me. I was just down with COVID, and the second day, my family brought me a book, which is Dynasty to Democracy. So that one full week reading about your life, about how you've handled your life so far, it was great. So without taking much time now, if you wish, maybe comfortable, we can pass around. All right.
A politician should never get too comfortable.
Well said, ma'am. Thank you. So with that, we have the first student, Yashika from Manav Rachna International School, Sector 14. Yashika, I would request you to please stand up and ask your question.
Hi, Yashika. Which class?
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Yashika from Humanities Stream, MRIS 14, Class 12th. Ma'am, my question to you is that you made your mark in politics, you made your mark in the television industry, you also are a wonderful mother. So when you look at this beautiful journey of yours, what do you think has been your greatest achievement till date, and what do you think was that driving force which motivated you to constantly work hard?
I think that one of my greatest achievements was the fact that both my children did splendidly well academically, but most importantly, turned out to be good people. As a working mother, Yashika, one of my greatest fears was, and this is shared by many working parents, whether we are good enough as parents to raise responsible citizens. So I think that if you ask me and you look back at my life and you look at Amethi, you look at my work as an administrator or my career in the media, there are people who presume that I might talk about those laurels as achievements, but I've always maintained how your children turn out is an indication of how you are as a human being, whether you're successful enough or not. And I'm not the only successful mother on the platform. I have Satya Bhala also who can vouch for what success means. But on a serious note, Yashika, when you talk about what has been the most beautiful part of the journey, the fact that you continue to learn. If I had said that my media success suffices, I wouldn't be standing before you today. I was very young when I read the poem by Rudyard Kipling called If. I'm sure many students have read it.
Yes,
And for me, that became like the North Star of my life. that you take success and failure and treat them just the same. They should not become overbearing factors of your life. And the fact that I was blessed to have opportunities to learn every single day of my life, the fact that I have teachers not only in the form of teachers but as people in my life, I think that for me has been one of the greatest parts of my journeys. So never stop learning and never stop living life to the fullest of opportunities that you receive. And you do that, Yashika, knowing that whatever decisions you take in life, whatever you do in life, you're responsible for it. So as long as you know your responsibilities, you know your duties, and you know what you aspire to be, I'm sure the world is wide open for you to go and achieve and scale new heights. My congratulations and best wishes to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you for answering that, ma'am. Next, we have Dr. Ansi.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm
Hi.
Dr. Ansi from Faculty of Dental Sciences. My question for you is that the pandemic saw a shift from the conventional classes to online classes, but the students who belong to rural areas and those who are socially underprivileged were at a disadvantage. And because of this, there were a large number of dropouts from school as well. How do you suggest bringing back these students so that there's no unemployment and they don't go down the line of poverty?
The pandemic, a global crisis, brought with it many challenges, which included the challenge in the sector of education, very rightly said so. And I think one must, as Prashantji was speaking about my tenure as HRD Minister, I was quite blessed that in 2014 itself, the Honorable Prime Minister was insistent that we digitize the entire curriculum. So much so that when the pandemic hit, not only did we have a digitized curriculum from grade 0 to grade 12, but also we had a functional platform called Swayam, where over 1,000 courses in higher education were already available to over 1 crore students. I must say here that when I took an opportunity to see how much of that digital platform was used in the pandemic by children, it has had in 30 languages 18.2 billion page hits. And there have been 30.34 billion classes, learning sessions that have happened on that platform. Which also means, as Manishji had said in his opening remarks, that the government prepared for a better future. And that platform today is being used to build back better. So how can you help children who are disadvantaged economically? Well, the Ministry of Education ensured that those who have access to the digital platform do so through Diksha and other such services that the Ministry and CBSE had proffered. But at the same time, they ensured that children with disabilities were reached out to, especially with special educators. District magistrates in this pandemic have played a splendid role in keeping administration working 24/7. So we've had education officers in every district, especially districts which are aspirational, districts which are left-wing extremist impacted districts. They have singularly reached out to students. In fact, I'm sure on Instagram, you have seen photographs of teachers lining up children in a gown and teaching them on a blackboard under the open sky. So efforts have been made, but at the same time, the Government of India has pronounced a production-linked incentive scheme under the Ministry of Telecom and IT, which hopes to make devices more affordable. But I think that part of the solution also lies in institutions such as Manav Rachna. You're a part of the faculty. There are many educational institutions, especially in the sphere of higher education, where student bodies have gotten together along with faculty and helped donate the second device somebody might have. They have, in fact, in Amethi, I've had this experience where our petroleum university has come together. Students have, in fact, गोद लिया है 30 सरकारी स्कूलों को, गांव के बच्चों को वो पढ़ाते हैं और digitally उनको enable करते हैं by donating a device. So if you'd like to start a donate a device drive in Manav Rachna, I think Mr. Bhalla, with your 28,000 student strength, there's much that you can offer back to society.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have Dr. Kritika.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Dr. Dr. Kritika from the Faculty of Dental Sciences. My question to you is that the government is bringing a lot of transformation in the educational sector. So in your opinion, what role can educational leaders play in making sure these transformations happen and they...
So, Kritika, one of the, for me, again, a joy was the fact that under the NCERT, when I had the responsibility in education, was to ensure that learning outcomes are prescribed to every class and then pronounced outside government schools on the walls. I think that one of the greatest gifts you can give a parent is to tell them the outcome expectation academically from a class. It is not feasible in higher education, but definitely feasible in school education. And I also believe that children with disabilities are children that can use much of your experience. It's not that they have a challenge that cannot be met. It is just that they need people with patience to take them through the process. So if you do these two things, I think that will be a great contribution from you as an individual or from Manav Rachna as an institution. Because there are many a parent who actually don't know what are the maths and science learnings that a student is expected to have at a particular given class. And in the absence of that knowledge, they don't manage to help their children to that extent. Most parents find out at the PTA meeting, where teachers sit there stringently and say, "Aapke bacche ne ye kiya." Most parents dread it, children too. So I think that learning can be an experience which is conducive both for the teaching community and the parent community, and not so cumbersome for the student if there are communication channels which are open. I recognize that faculties at times are burdened by the very strength of the class. But I remember a time where teaching was just done for the joy of it. So I think that if you pursue teaching as an instrument of joy, there is much of a difference that you can bring to the life of your student. If as a parent, you are not critical, कि हमारे ज़माने में तो ऐसे पढ़ाते थे, then I think that you can contribute much more to strengthening your teaching systems in the school that your child goes to. And as a child, I think that if you have a parent-teacher relationship which is open, which is friendly, I think that child is quite blessed then to have such a community to learn in.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Next we have Nikita.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Nikita. My question is regarding inclusion and gender empowerment. Ma'am, as Minister of Women and Child Development, we seek your inputs regarding how the term inclusion should be viewed by us in regarding.
So, Nitika, in your point of view, what is empowerment and what is inclusion?
Ma'am, in inclusion, regarding inclusion of all the genders, equal participation in all the sectors like social, economical, health.
What tells you that you are not right now included in every sector? What stops you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm also in all the sectors like.
Which sector says women are not allowed? None.
Yes, ma'am.
And Indian girls, normally if they say not allowed, then they break the door down. So there is absolutely no segment of society which disallows participation to women in our country. When you talk about empowerment, describe what it means for you.
Ma'am, equal participation, like sir had
So who
mentioned.
stops you from being an equal?
No, ma'am. Like opportunities throughout the strata. When we like sir had mentioned that only 23% of women labor are currently working in
So
various sectors.
let me give you a number. In 2014, banking instruments were not available to close to 65 to 70% women in our country. In fact, to be precise, 72% women in our country did not have a savings account in 2014. Since 2014, 220 million Indian women have opened their bank accounts for the first time in their lives. Now, what happened after that? The Prime Minister pronounced a program called Mudra Yojana, right? It was not gender inclined. It was just bank loans which are collateral free for anybody who wanted to start a small business or anybody who wanted to refinance their small business. Now imagine in India, there was a presumption that women do not know how to engage with a bank on a business plan. Normally, if you look back before 2014, everybody told women who wanted to start a small business, क्या करना है? चेकबुक पापा साइन कर लेंगे, बैंक बैलेंस पति कर लेंगे, आपको सिर्फ अपना साइन दिखाना है और क्या करना है? अगर उसको अपना व्यवसाय शुरू करना पड़ता था तो उस औरत से कहते थे कितना पैसा है, वो जेवर बेच देती थी, अपना थोड़ा थोड़ा आटे के डब्बे में जो पैसा बांधा हुआ था उसको यूज करती थी. Now imagine an instrument called Mudra was given and women could bring together small business plans, go to their local branch office and get a loan. And guess what? 17.6 crore Indian women received Mudra Yojana. Imagine if these women were told that you're not allowed. So I think that many a times those distances that we hope to travel are created in our minds. And I'm saying this with a sense of authority because I was not born in a rich family. I was born in a very, very conservative family where I'm one of the first girls in my families to work. I was the first girl to work, step out of the house and say, पहले मैं अपना career बनाऊंगी, फिर बाद की देखी जाएगी. And when I was born, I lived above a tabela, भैंस का that too. So this is not somebody speaking who has not challenged circumstances. And that is why I can say with authority that if you decide that you want to participate in something, if you decide that you have an ambition that you want to chase, if you decide that you want to achieve a goal, there is nobody on planet Earth that's going to stop you just because you're a woman.
Thank you, ma'am. Next we have Harshit.
Finally, a gentleman asking a question.
Good evening, ma'am. My name is Harshit Mishra from Commerce and Business Studies. So, ma'am, my question is, do you think online education is leading to a digital gender gap?
Do I think? मैं थोड़ा उनको नर्वसा रही हूँ. हाँ. Repeat करें.
Do you think online education is also leading to a digital gender gap?
I don't think so. And let me tell you why. Just like there's a presumption there, let me tell you why. If there is a digital divide that is prospering, it is because of the gap in digital instruments available in regional languages. And I think Aikibat is on the stage this evening, and he knows that one of our greatest challenges has been that most of our curriculum is available predominantly in higher education in English, a little bit in Hindi, but in a country which has 1,200 plus dialects, the digital divide is because digital instruments are not as popularly available in Indian dialects and languages. Insofar as the gender gap goes, there was, before the pandemic hit, a concept called work from home. And that concept was predominantly pushed at women. That too, women who wanted to give birth, took off from office, and then had to come back. And जब इसके बारे में चर्चा होती थी इंडस्ट्री स्पेसेस में, तो लोग कहते थे कि ये जनानियों का कॉन्सेप्ट है. फिर पैंडेमिक आया, पुरुष भी वर्क फ्रॉम होम करने लगे. सिर्फ वही नहीं करने लगे, कुछ लोगों ने अपने वीडियोस भी दिखाए कैसे वो बर्तन मांज रहे हैं, घर सफाई कर रहे हैं, खाना पका रहे हैं. And I think that is where there was a lot of societal realization कि खाना पकाना सिर्फ औरत का काम नहीं है. अगर घर में कोई पुरुष भी पका ले, हाथ बटा ले, तो उसका महत्व सोसाइटी में कम नहीं होता. So insofar as online education and the gender gap goes, I think if you're looking at education and the gender challenge, then the challenge lies for us in maths and science. And especially after the 12th standard. If you look at the CBSE results or state board results, you will find that girls do outdo boys. But when you look at their transition into technology institutions, you will find that that transition is less than 28%. And why does that happen? Because there is not enough spending done on girls for sitting in competitive exams. 12वीं तक मैथ्स और साइंस में वो compete करती हैं, उसके बाद जो added support चाहिए उसमें चुनौती आती है. And I also feel the Prime Minister was very kind enough to start this whole national conversation on local toys. If you look at how do we engage with children, आप देखो बच्ची को कभी भी हम functional toys नहीं देते जो उसको complex building methodology सिखाता हो 0 to 6 की उम्र में. गुड़िया देते हैं, टी-शर्ट देते हैं. So there are many things that have a psychosocial impact on learning. If you look at even AI, or for that matter, even the internet, there were many women in coding before it became profitable. The minute it became profitable, a lot of those positions got taken in by men. So the challenge is complex. But I think that we are all headed in the correct direction because we are aware of the challenge. Before this, there was this very convenient silence that the challenge exists. Now there is an acceptance, and when there is an acceptance, that means you're working towards a solution.
Thank
Now,
you,
would you like to ask another question or sit?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we have a student from Manav Rachna International School, Ishita.
Very good evening, ma'am, to you. I'm Ishita Gautam from Manav Rachna International School, and my question to you is, what do you think is the impact of COVID-19 on student equity?
I think that one of the first questions that came to me with regards to access to digital devices, if you look at equity only from the prism of devices, then yes, there has to be a very humble recognition that challenges exist. Given that we are still predominantly a society which is a one TV family, imagine what happens to one smartphone per family. So there is, yes, definitely a challenge. But when you talk about the word equity, what do you mean?
Ma'am, like giving according to the needs of the person.
No. What is the difference between equality and equity?
Ma'am, equality is like we are giving like same to everyone, but equity is like we are giving to them according to their needs.
So if it is a child with disability, when you use the word we are giving, if it's equity, then you say we are sharing. So if you begin with that word change from you as an individual student, that's where the change begins.
Well said, ma'am. Shivani. Yeah. Next is Shivani.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Dr. Shubhani from the Faculty of Dental Sciences. Ma'am, my question is, the pandemic has evolved the education system and we require a lot of resources to build back together. What collective efforts should the society do together to get back in a stronger way?
Shivani, the very fact that as a society we are saying we're building back, first is a recognition that many things are broken. And those things didn't break just yesterday. There are some things that were challenged or fractured which broke, and some things which broke over a period of time because the pressure was too much. So when you talk about how do you build back better, you also need to see who are you building it back for, and how do you build it better as compared to the previous establishments that we were a part of. For instance, if you look at the time that there was a lockdown, and you listen to your elders at that time, somebody or the other must have definitely told you, hawa bahut saaf ho gayi hai. Right? I can hear the birds. Right? And why was that happening? because suddenly people were conscientious of the society or the surrounding that they were a part of. Suddenly everybody had time to take a breath. Suddenly everybody had time to introspect. So these 2 years, if you look at it only from a perspective of challenge and not from lessons, then possibly you're not building back that grade. Did it teach you something? Apart from fortitude, apart from caring enough for people that you had not possibly spoken to years or months ago, I think if you can sustain that as well as an individual, then you're a part of building back better. So what do you build back better? Your country, your society at large, is the only country in the entire world where 800 million Indians have received free ration for 15 months. There is no government, no nation in the world which has done that. Why? Because we as people have said, koi raat ko bhuke pet nahi soega. That's building back better.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Next we have Shatakshi from Manav Rachna International School.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Satakshi from Science Stream, Class 12th. My question is, do you think that we should revert back to the old ways after this coronavirus crisis is over? Or
How old are you?
Ma'am, 17.
You're 17. So what do you mean by old ways?
Ma'am, like we used to be 2 years ago.
Huh?
Like we used to be 2 years ago.
Ah. At 45, I thought, hey Bhagwan, what does she mean old? And what was that 2 years ago?
It was like physical classes, going, interacting with the teacher face to face.
You know, one of the greatest joys of living is that no matter what happens, you move on. There are many things in the past which will be so irresistibly beautiful that they want to pull you back. But life is not about walking back. It's about looking ahead. Challenges will come. This question of yours is indicative that when challenges come, you would want to seek comfort. But on the other end of discomfort lies a beautiful tomorrow. So 2 years ago, you could gossip with your friends at the back bench. You can't do that now. 2 years ago, you could watch something quietly all night without your parents knowing and come back and talk about it the next morning. 2 years ago, you could meet friends or fight with people in the campus. That is what you miss. A little bit, or maybe you miss the attendance in class. But whatever you miss, be grateful that you had it.
Yes, ma'am.
Not many of us are lucky to have it. You've had it. Situations have turned different now. But yes, you have a brilliant institution you're a part of. You have a loving family that supports your education. You might have had a khatpat with a person or two. It doesn't matter. You're well fed, well looked after. And I think you're talented enough to make a bright future for yourself. So no, I don't look at old ways. Imagine my old way. 45 years ago, above a tabela. No. So look ahead with a brighter promise. Beautiful memories can always be celebrated. But life is about new achievements and new journeys.
Thank you, ma'am.
So look ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. Next is Tanya, again from Manav Rachna International School.
I have to congratulate that young boy. He was the only one who had the himmat to get up and ask one question. All the other gentlemen have quietly sat down. Yes.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Tanya Dasgupta. I'm a 12th grade commerce student. And my question for you is that in this competitive and information and technology oriented age, how can we change the mentality of majority of the parents who still believe that studying is just for earning?
Well, my daughter just passed out the 12th standard. And when I was 17, I never realized why my parents said what you just said. they take that position out of absolute fear because they want you to have a secure life. They want to make sure that their child is not in want of anything. And this fear comes only from a parent who has a salary. बड़े खानदानों में डर नहीं होता. ये सिर्फ मिडिल क्लास परिवार के किसी माता पिता का डर होता है. तो उस डर के पीछे प्यार को समझो. कई बार माँ बाप ये कहते होंगे पढ़ लो, दिस इज योर फॉल बैक प्लान, राइट? फिर जो मर्जी करना है कर लेना, बोलते हैं ना?
Yes, ma'am.
हम सबके माँ बाप यही कहते थे. ये एक मिडिल क्लास फिनोमेना है. हम एक एक रुपया जोड़कर यहाँ तक पहुँचे हैं और हम नहीं चाहते कि हमारे बच्चों को गुर्बत के वो दिन देखने पड़े, इसलिए अपने बच्चों से कहते हैं पढ़ लो, अच्छी सी नौकरी कर लो. हम भी चाहते हैं कि तुम धन्ना सेठ बनो, लेकिन हमने जिंदगी में इतने थपेड़े खाए हैं कि हम जानते हैं कि शिखर पर बड़ी मुश्किलों से पहुंचा जाता है. So it's not that your parents are not conscientious, it's just that they must have struggled enough in life and they don't want those struggles for you. So if you can assure your parents that you will look after yourself, I think their fear will subside.
Thank you, ma'am.
Very beautifully explained, ma'am. Thank you. Next we have Anjali. She's right in front of you.
Hi.
Anjali, take
That
the mic.
gentleman is desperately trying to give you the mic.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Anjali Agarwal from Department of English. And today my question is, UNICEF has applauded your ministry for taking so many initiatives towards bringing a hope to the students who have faced a loss due to pandemic according to their education, in the field of their education. So what exactly can we as students can draw from those initiatives that are being taken? And what is the thing that we can learn as individuals?
I think that if you can dedicate yourself and if you truly want to contribute to just one student who belongs to a challenging background, you've done the deed that society expects of you. We are waiting to affect the life of a multitude. We don't want to begin from one. My plea to you would be begin from one. Sustain that one person that you can take under your wing, and that will be a great contribution to society. We normally in discourses such as this look for that one big idea, but we don't recognize that change begins slowly, quietly, and with one person.
That's indeed very true, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. It has turned out to be a satsang and not. Yes.
Ma'am, is it okay? Can we take
Yes.
one more question?
But like I said, soon, this is not a conversation for young budding innovators and enterprises. I sound almost like a student counselor. Yes.
Yes. We have Yash with us. Yash, you can ask your questions.
Congratulations, another
Yes,
gentleman.
another boy.
Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, as we know, the National Education Policy, it has signaled a new vision for the school education system in India, which was much needed. So
You teach?
Ma'am, I am a first-year resident, so I do take a couple of classes.
Okay.
So my question, ma'am, was that these new visions and ideas, how do we actually weave it into the education system that we have in place now?
What's your area of academic interest?
Ma'am, I'm a first-year resident in the Faculty of Dental Sciences.
Of?
Faculty of Dental Sciences, ma'am.
Medical sciences?
Dental Sciences, ma'am.
Dental sciences. I think that what has been dominant in the new education policy, as Prashant ji had said, when I had the privilege of beginning the process, we went and engaged with over 2.5 lakh village education councils, which had never happened in the history of our country. The Prime Minister was insistent that we ensured that there is a voice of every Indian in that policy. So not only did we go out to every village education council, we also went to every block, every district of the country, engaged with faculty, students across the board along with state governments, and then this document came alive. There are three segments which are particularly endearing for me. One is the Gender Inclusion Fund. Now, there are many questions that came today about the gender gap in education, digital or otherwise. And I think that for the first time for the government to have a policy document that is going to impact the next decade of education in our country and have a specific gender ask in it or a gender direction in it is a great step, especially as we enter into 75 years of celebration of our independence. The second is the emphasis on ensuring that if you want education to be democratized, then you need to ensure that it's available in every spoken or known language to Indians. And the emphasis of the policy document on language also, I think, is something that we need to celebrate. The fact that children with disabilities, and as we call them Divyang, don't need pity, but need equal opportunity to learn, is again a fulcrum of the education policy that needs, I think, added attention. So for me, these three verticals is something which is extremely important. I had the privilege again when I was HRD minister to start a project called Imprint. Now, Imprint, and Bhatsab might remember that, we had identified 10 major fields that India needs to prepare for in the next decade and a half, which had defense needs of the country along with sustainable development. We had gotten together under one umbrella of Imprint all technology institutions of the country, including all the IITs, all the engineering colleges. We had also gotten together all the central universities under Imprint. And our endeavor was that not only do you identify subjects which will be needed by the country, you identify how do you prepare teaching processes of faculty members. Because skilling is the end goal, education is the end goal, but there is a whole process of educating the educators. So I think that Imprint India is something that we began in 2014, again, which cemented a lot of the ambitions of the government, and especially the Honorable Prime Minister. And before I come to a close for your answer, I think one also needs to recognize that, I think Prashant has said in his opening remarks, that how do we make a space or name for ourselves internationally in academia? You see, for many years, we were measuring our capacities as educational institutions on the barometer of international ranking agencies. Now, I had the privilege, with the Prime Minister's blessing, of starting the first national ranking framework, which ranked educational institutions in higher education, which means we compete with the best in our country, but on the educative academic needs of our country. At the same time, we aspire to have educational qualifications that the world celebrates. So I feel that many a times, many of those educational aspects that were intrinsic to our country's education were lost in the international rankings. Let me give you a small example, and I've said this often. Manjul Bhargav is the Field Medals of Honor winner in mathematics, which is an equivalent to the Nobel Prize. Now, if you ever talk to Manjul teaches, I last checked, in Princeton. And one of his most famous classes was mathematics for non-mathematicians. And if you ever ask Manjul, how did you learn mathematics to get a Nobel equivalent in maths at a young age, is unheard of. And Manjul told me, मेरे नाना ने मुझे जयपुर में संस्कृत और कविताओं के माध्यम से मैथमेटिक्स पढ़ाई थी. Now, if you ask any institution that is teaching Sanskrit or poetry and mathematics, like one of the questions that came there, they would say, "Arey, ye to school acha nahi hai." But imagine that individual or that institution gave rise to one of the brightest mathematical minds in the world. So academia and education is such a diverse field, and the opportunities are immense. I think we are extremely lucky as a country that we've had a rich history. The issue now before us is that whether the new generation knows of that rich history. So even if you're in dental sciences, read up on the Kerala School of Mathematics and Astronomy. You'll be astounded. Even if it's not your field, study something which does not conform to your curriculum, but you need to know about your country.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much for answering these
Thank you.
questions, ma'am. But at this point, we also have a lot of students who are listening to you live. So we would request you for your thoughts on what are your expectations from the students and from all of us.
I think students have enough burden of expectations on them. I shouldn't add mine. I should
Well
only say this, that as this young girl said, should we go back to the old ways? Find a balance. Nowadays, the fashionable word is phygital. Find a balance, and I'm sure you shall find what you seek. My best wishes to all the students who've joined us online. I hope to see them in person someday.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for answering all of these queries. And I think we are glad that this is all on record because we would love to go back and listen to all of this again. At this moment, I would also like to take this opportunity while Madam Smriti Irani is here with us, but I'm sure as we all are celebrating 25 years of being here, we could not have done this without the blessings and encouragement of our chief patron, Srimati Satya Bhallaji. So a round of applause for ma'am, please. Every single day, she is a constant source of encouragement, guidance, and is always with us in everything that we wish to pursue. So thank you so much, and over to you, Diksha.
थैंक यू सो मच. एक बार जोरदार तालियां मैडम स्मृति ईरानी जी के लिए, जिन्होंने इतने पेशेंटली सब बच्चों के क्वेश्चंस के आंसर दिए और इतनी खूबसूरती से सबको समझाया. एक बार जोरदार तालियां इस मंच के लिए जो आज हम सभी के बीच विराजमान है और पैंडेमिक के इस समय में भी वर्चुअल से हटकर एक बार फिर फिजिकली हम सभी एक साथ जुड़े हैं सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग का पालन करते हुए. So with this, we have come to an end, and to culminate this enlightening and mindful, stimulating session, I now would request Honorable Vice Chancellor Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies, Dr. Sanjay Srivastav ji, for benediction.
मानवीय संवेदनाओं की प्रतिमूर्ति, आदरणीय केंद्रीय मंत्री श्रीमती स्मृति जुबिन ईरानी जी, केंद्रीय मंत्री महिला बाल विकास मंत्रालय. मैडम, आपके कैंपस आने से और आपके हमारे स्टूडेंट के इस संवाद से पूरा कैंपस बहुत ज़्यादा आपका हृदय से आभार और कृतज्ञता ज्ञापित करता है. एक बार पुनः सब लोग जोरदार तालियों के साथ मैडम का धन्यवाद करें, क्योंकि मुझे अपनी बात कम शब्दों में कहनी है और मैम ने एक बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण लर्निंग दी, बहुत सारी चीज़ें दी. पर श्रीहरि की एक बात मैडम ने कही याशिका का जवाब देते हुए कि इन सक्सेस एंड फेलियर हाउ यू मेक बैलेंस दैट मेक्स द डिफरेंस. एंड लॉर्ड ऑफ श्री सेड सुखे दुखे समय कृत्वा लाभा लाभो जया जये ततो युद्धाय युष्व नैवम पापम वापसैसी. And that is one of the biggest takeaway of today's program. हमारी मुख्य स्थान रक्षिका मैडम सत्या भल्ला जी, जो कि जिनका अविरल स्नेह पत्र दर्शन की अद्वितीय प्रेरणा मानव रचना शिक्षण संस्थान को नई ऊंचाइयों पर ले जा रहा है. मैडम, आपका हृदय से आभार और धन्यवाद ज्ञापित करते हैं कि आपका हमेशा स्नेह हम सभी के ऊपर रहता है और जब भी हम आपको याद करते हैं आप हमारे समक्ष होती हैं. आज के मुख्य वक्ता डॉक्टर मनीष कुमार जी, एक्स एमडी एंड सीईओ कौशल विकास मंत्रालय, कौशल विकास नेशनल स्किल डेवलपमेंट कॉरपोरेशन, जो कि भारतीय प्रशासनिक सेवा के अधिकारी रहे हैं और मानव रचना शिक्षण संस्थान नेशनल स्किल डेवलपमेंट कॉरपोरेशन के साथ पिछले 6 वर्षों से सतत प्रयास करता रहा है कि कौशल को किस तरह से एक नए आयाम पे पहुंचाया जाए. और मैम, ये बात में आपको जानकर बहुत ही खुशी होगी कि अंडर डॉक्टर ओपी भल्ला फाउंडेशन वी आर डोनेटिंग मोबाइल्स फॉर रूरल स्टूडेंट्स फ्रॉम पास्ट मेनी ईयर्स. हमारे अध्यक्ष डॉक्टर प्रशांत भल्ला जी, जिनके मार्गदर्शन सहयोग से मानव रचना शिक्षण संस्थान नवीनतम ऊंचाइयों की ओर अग्रसर है. एक बार जोरदार तालियां हमारे अध्यक्ष महोदय के लिए. हमारे उपाध्यक्ष डॉक्टर अमित भल्ला जी, जिनका अथक भगीरथ प्रयास से इस नवीन ऊर्जा का संचरण के साथ मानव रचना अपनी नई प्रगति की ओर अग्रसर है. अमित जी, आपका विशेष रूप से आभार और धन्यवाद. मेरे वरिष्ठ सहयोगी डॉक्टर एनसी वधवा जी, डॉक्टर आई के भट्ट साहब, हमारे ट्रस्टी डॉक्टर MM कथूरिया जी, और इस पूरे कार्यक्रम में लगभग 1000 से ज़्यादा लोग जो फिजिकल इस प्रोग्राम में पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हैं, मैं सभी का हृदय की अनंत गहराइयों से सबका आभार और धन्यवाद ज्ञापित करता हूं। इन 25 वर्षों की यात्रा में हर एक शिक्षार्थी, शिक्षक, नॉन टीचिंग, एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, कॉर्पोरेट जगत के रिक्रूटर्स, माता पिता व परिवार के सभी सदस्यगणों का मैं हृदय से कृतज्ञता और आभार ज्ञापित करता हूं। हमारे इस सफ़र में प्रेस और मीडिया का भी बहुत सराहनीय योगदान रहा है, जिन्होंने मानव रचना शिक्षण संस्थान को जनमानस तक पहुंचाया है। उनके इस सहयोग का हृदय से आभार, सम्मान और धन्यवाद। अंततः इस 25 वर्षों की यात्रा में, जिसको हमारी मुख्य संरक्षिका ने कहा कि एक छोटा सा बीज जिसको हमारे संस्थापक डॉक्टर OP भल्ला ने लगाया था, जो एक विशाल वृक्ष की भांति पूरी दुनिया में अपनी छाप छोड़ रहा है। और वो हमेशा कहा करते थे कि मानव रचना एक पीपल, बरगद और नीम, इन तीनों का संगम है। और श्री हरि ने अपनी बात में कहा है, ऊर्ध्वमूलम अथ शाखम अश्वत्थम प्राहु अव्ययम छंदासी यस्य पर्णानि यह तम वेद स वेदिता। और आने वाले समय में, आने वाले सालों में मानव रचना शिक्षण संस्थान नई ऊंचाइयों की तरफ बढ़े, ऐसी हम सभी की आशा है। और आप सभी का इस कार्यक्रम से जुड़ने के लिए हृदय से धन्यवाद, आभार। जय हिंद। थैंक यू।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर। और इस कार्यक्रम को वर्चुअली फेसबुक लाइव के जरिए 1000 से ज़्यादा लोगों ने जुड़कर देखा है। और इस कार्यक्रम में आप सभी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद साथ जुड़ने के लिए। आप सभी से आग्रह, कृपया राष्ट्रगान के लिए अपने स्थान पर खड़े हो जाएं। प्लीज राइज फॉर द नेशनल एंथम। थैंक यू सो मच लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन। आप सभी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। मैं मुख्य रूप से आभार व्यक्त करना चाहूंगी श्रीमती स्मृति जुबिन ईरानी जी का। और आप सभी से रिक्वेस्ट, प्लीज सभागार में ही रहें जब तक हमारे गेस्ट इस सभागार से बाहर नहीं चले जाते हैं। आप सभी से आग्रह, कृपया इस ऑडिटोरियम में ही रहें।